I apologize, but it appears that there is a problem with my car. I was notified that I needed to pay off my balance right away in order to keep my card active. My regular credit card payment hasn't been processed yet, the customer support agent mentioned. I had assumed that I had enough money in an account for automatic withdrawals, but when I looked at my bank balance, it was a startling $2. My spouse is the only other individual with the ability to withdraw money from this account. I hurriedly reached for my phone to call the police, feeling a wave of panic. My name is Emily, and I work as a web designer. I am 29 years old. I like that my employment lets me choose my own hours, so I can be flexible. Even though I can meet with clients electronically, I still prefer in-person meetings since they allow me to express my ideas more effectively. I frequently find myself working non-stop toward project deadlines, forgoing sleep in order to be productive. My spouse, Matthew, with whom I got married a year ago, helps me a lot to keep up this fast pace. He was the liaison on a project I was working on for his company a few years ago, which is when we first got together. We were married, and he moved into my apartment after 2 years of dating. But there has been a serious issue with Matthew's parents lately. They frequently experience financial difficulties and are fairly carefree about money. Because I make more money than Matthew, we split our living expenses evenly. I pay all of our bills at the beginning of each month, and he pays me back half at the beginning of the following. We typically find this arrangement to be effective, but the current financial situation has created unanticipated hardship. Matthew seemed particularly agitated when I brought up this month's costs to him, as I regularly do, and remarked, "Look, money's a bit tight right now. Can I pay my portion of the bills after I get paid again?" Perplexed, I inquired, "What do you understand by tight?" "All I'm requesting is half of the costs." "I get that, but I'm completely strapped until my next payday," he retorted. It had just been 8 days since his last payday, which surprised me. His evasive answers and unwillingness to elaborate were annoying me. "Will you kindly explain why you're unable to pay? And what's this about helping your parents?" I persisted. After hesitating, Matthew declared, "There's nothing suspicious. I was just trying to help my parents. I sent them some money because they claimed that they were having some financial difficulties." Hearing this was unexpected because Matthew's parents were thought to be well off. His mother had a part-time job, and his father worked full-time. I found it incomprehensible that they required money so quickly. If both of your parents are employed, why do they still require financial support? There has never been a problem with this. I've been helping them for a while, Matthew said. I gave in when they requested extra money, starting this month. I knew how important it was to provide for my family, yet this realization unnerved me. "All right, just make sure you pay your share by the end of the month," I firmly responded. Matthew has never changed his mind once he makes a decision. He is a naturally obstinate person. Even while I adore him for who he is, there are moments when this quality causes problems. I decided to give up and wait for his next paycheck, knowing that pressuring him any further would not help. But ever since then, he's constantly come up with ways to avoid paying his share of the bills. Our relationship has become more tense as a result of this habit, making money conversations more difficult than they once were. Even when Matthew does make a cash contribution, it is insufficient to meet our needs. Even though we are legally still married, it has been about 8 months since he stopped doing his share, and I am starting to lose tolerance. I'm left to take care of all the domestic duties and bills by myself. Thinking about this leaves me feeling stupid and helpless, as though the constant pressure has emptied me out. When Matthew returned home one late evening, his cheeks flushed from booze, I was no longer able to contain my annoyance. "Why didn't you call if you were going to be out drinking?" I asked in a loud voice. "I waited for you while preparing dinner." "Sorry, a colleague invited me out unexpectedly," was his casual response. "Couldn't you have sent a message?" I shot back. "I already asked that you keep me updated. You can't just leave me hanging." "Please don't start shouting as soon as I enter. It's not friendly," he shot back. I was taken aback. "What are you trying to say? Why am I being held responsible?" His scornful expression was like a slap across the face, making me even more enraged. "How can you afford to go out drinking when you can't even contribute to our bills?" I asked him frankly. "After working every day and taking care of all the housework, I'm also worn out. Could we at least cease giving your parents money if you are unable to contribute financially?" Matthew tensed up. "How come?" "Why? My family's business is that. It is not a matter for you." This answer hurts. "Matthew, how about the rest of us? Are we not also family? To you, what am I? We are married and sharing a home here. This is really annoying." "What does it matter? You earn more than I do anyway," he said dismissively, as if that justified his lack of contribution. His sense of entitlement infuriated me further. The only reason Matthew can live so comfortably is that I've been shouldering our financial responsibilities alone, but his recent behavior and attitudes have made me question how sustainable our situation is. As I've been covering all our expenses, I couldn't help but think, would a simple thank you or an apology for the inconvenience be too much to ask? His irrational arguments left me utterly speechless. His arrogance was bewildering. With our tempers flaring, I realized a rational conversation was out of the question at that moment. So I suggested we revisit the discussion the next day. The following day, as I was preparing dinner and waiting for Matthew to return, I heard the front door creak open. "Welcome home," I called out, but received no reply. Then the living room door swung open, and to my surprise, there stood my husband with his parents. "Mom, Dad, what brings you here?" I asked, taken aback. With a smug grin, Matthew said, "My parents have something they want to discuss with you. Let's get to the point," he prompted, urging them to speak. My father-in-law, looking somewhat apologetic, started. "I apologize for the sudden visit. We've come to talk about the financial support Matthew has been providing us." "What's this about?" I asked, confused. "Oh, Emily, could you please ease up on Matthew?" his mother interjected, catching me completely off guard. "Matthew has been sending us money each month considering our well-being. It's unfair for you to accuse him," she added. "What are you saying?" "I'm just asking for our living expenses to be managed properly," I replied, trying to contain my frustration. "Listen, Emily," his father chimed in. "I hate to bring this up, but we're practically family, aren't we? If your own family were struggling, wouldn't you lend a hand? That's what anyone would expect, right?" His mother continued, "Your father-in-law and I have been experiencing financial strain lately, so we rely on Matthew to continue supporting us. Therefore, you should handle all the living expenses for both of you." This presumption was staggering. The idea that I should carry the entire financial burden for us felt incredibly unfair. Matthew's parents imposing on our finances without considering the strain it put on our marriage was troubling. I realized this was not just about money. It was about respect and boundaries within our family dynamics. They assumed it was only natural for me to cover all the costs. Unable to bear it any longer, I finally snapped. Enough is enough. What do you think I've been doing? I manage all the household chores and cover every single expense. How is that fair? Isn't it what married couples are supposed to do? Support each other? Or are you just that selfish? Upon hearing his mother's scoff, my husband, who was sitting beside me, couldn't hold back a chuckle. That evening, despite my attempts to bring reason into our conversation, they remained stubborn and left well after 1 p.m. Once they were gone, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. My husband coldly handed me signed divorce papers. Shocked, I asked, "What's this?" "It means exactly what it says," he replied sharply, looking down at me. He added, "If you persist in defying me, I'll end our marriage." "Are you serious?" I asked, incredulous. "Absolutely. If you don't want a divorce, then simply obey. Your role is to follow, not lead." I knew I should have stood my ground, but I felt utterly drained. Perhaps trying to reason with Matthew before things got worse was futile. Maybe divorce was the inevitable solution. The decision came swiftly. The next day, I signed the divorce papers Matthew had given me and headed to City Hall. The documents were processed quickly, and just like that, I was single again. Now free from the constraints of my marriage, I felt a surge of relief and empowerment. I decided it was time to find my place and embrace independent living fully. Feeling rejuvenated, I indulged in a shopping trip to the department store. Working predominantly from home, and with outings limited mainly to client meetings, it had been quite some time since I splurged on myself, especially given the recent financial strain. Today was a new beginning. Determined to treat myself, I headed to the women's clothing section. After trying on a few dresses, I chose 2 favorites. At the checkout, I handed over my credit card, but the cashier's troubled expression made my heart sink. "I'm sorry, ma'am. It seems we're unable to process this card." "What? That's impossible," I replied, puzzled. "I just used it recently to buy a new tablet for work without any issues. Why the sudden problem now?" Rushing home, I immediately called the card company. After explaining the situation, the operator shared some alarming news. "We require immediate payment of the outstanding balance, or your card will be rendered unusable." Outstanding balance? "Last month, we were able to debit your card usage from your account. Could you please verify your bank account balance?" Ending the call, I quickly logged into my bank account online. The very account that funds my card transactions, which was initially reserved for personal savings. If my memory serves me right, there should have been $8 million in there, but the balance read 0. Just before the card's due date, the entire $8 million had been withdrawn. What on earth was happening? A chilling suspicion gripped me. Could it have been Matthew? But who else had access? Our bank book and ATM card were stored together, only accessible to both of us, meaning Matthew was the only other person who could have withdrawn from my account. When he returned, I confronted him. "Hey, did you withdraw money from my account?" He smirked, let out an exasperated sigh, and replied, clearly irritated, "Oh, you figured it out, Pa." Though I did a pretty good job of covering my tracks. "I can't believe this. Why would you do that?" "For my parents, of course. I gave them your $8 million. "What did you just say?" His words hit me like a ton of bricks. He had given away my entire savings to his parents under the guise of needing financial support. Despite my shock, I managed to maintain composure as Matthew began his explanation, his voice laced with a misguided sense of pride. His parents, it turned out, had fallen prey to the lure of online shopping. Their new hobby quickly escalated into an addiction. They weren't just buying necessities. They were splurging on luxuries, accumulating duplicates of expensive items, and even distributing them to neighbors as if hosting some extravagant giveaway. Their monthly expenditures had ballooned to a staggering $750,000, a figure well beyond Matthew's financial reach. Desperate, he had dipped into my savings, extracting a whopping $8 million to cover their excesses. When he finished, he casually remarked, "You shouldn't be upset. After all, they're practically your family too. Think of it as helping out the family. It's just $8 million. No need to make such a big deal out of it." That was the last straw. I dialed the police right then and there, my voice steady as I reported a theft. Matthew's eyes widened in disbelief as I ended the call. He erupted. "What are you doing? Did you just call the cops?" "Of course I did," I shot back. "We've just been robbed, haven't we?" he sputtered. "But this is exaggerating. It's my house too." I cut him off, standing my ground. "Actually, we're divorced now, and this apartment is leased under my name only. So technically, it's not your home anymore. We are not together. Remember those divorce papers you signed yesterday? They've been filed, so this place is mine." As the tension escalated between us, Matthew still couldn't grasp the gravity of the situation. "You've got to be kidding me. Call them back and cancel the report," he pleaded in disbelief. I waved my phone menacingly at him and warned, "If you dare lay a finger on me, I'll call the cops again. Just so you know, they're already on their way. You can't escape now. Why don't you just admit what you've done?" Looking desperate, Matthew tried to evoke our past. "Wait, hold on. We loved each other, didn't we? How did it come to this?" "Love each other?" I scoffed, my voice thick with scorn. "Don't try to feed me that nonsense. Think about it. Whose fault do you think all of this is? It all began because you blindly supported your irresponsible parents. You can't just act recklessly and expect forgiveness. Who would forgive someone as despicable as you?" Stung by my words, Matthew attempted to shift the focus. "What a fool. Do you really know who you're talking to?" "Yes, I'm talking directly to you," I shot back, my voice cold and steady. "Like parents, like children. Because you were raised by parents who were careless with money, you think it's acceptable to deplete someone else's savings. I hope the police give you a stern lecture and make you feel the weight of those $8 million. Just then, we heard the sirens approach, and the doorbell rang, a sharp sound that cut through the heated exchange. As the police entered, Matthew's bravado dissolved completely, and he crumbled, a shadow of his former self. "Who's the suspect?" an officer asked, looking between us. "It's him," I said firmly, without a doubt. "All right, let's go. You need to come in for questioning," the officer commanded. Matthew, his face pale and eyes wide with fear, stammered, "All I wanted was to support my parents." His voice trailed off into silence as the reality of the situation hit him. Matthew was led away by the police, and his protests were ignored. However, the saga didn't end there. Despite my clear statement and the evidence I provided, the authorities later informed me that the incident was considered a civil matter. They explained that the legal boundaries prevented them from taking more drastic actions in what was essentially a financial dispute within a marriage. I realized that the police were unable to provide me the resolution I was looking for, and I felt both frustrated and determined. It was obvious what to do next. I made the decision to get legal counsel in order to confront the betrayal and retrieve the sizable sum of money that had been stolen from me. Not only did I need a plan to get my assets back right away, but I also needed to make sure that this egregious betrayal of confidence and security would never occur again. I was resolute despite the emotional and legal difficulties I encountered along the way. I was ready to take on any obstacles in my path as I started my road toward financial independence and justice. I requested $10 million in damages as payment for the theft of my $8 million in savings. Naturally, Matthew's parents were unable to pay that amount. They ultimately discovered that they were deeply in debt. His parents maintained their careless spending, accruing even more debt, and ultimately turning to loan sharks for loans despite their dire financial circumstances. They always tried to remain out of sight, living in constant fear of the persistent debt collectors. I took the audacious choice to cut all contact with Matthew, in contrast to their downward trajectory. I made the finest option for my professional development and mental well-being when I moved out and into a new apartment. Luckily, my career took off without warning, and I soon made more money than I could have imagined. Ever since I broke up with Matthew, everything in my career seemed to be falling into place. I now regret not getting a divorce from him sooner. My marriage's breakdown taught me a profound yet important lesson. It showed me that I still had a lot of life left in me, and that I could bounce back and start fresh. I learned a lot from this turbulent experience, and decided to be more cautious going forward to make sure that my mental and financial health was never jeopardized. Despite its many difficulties, this time in my life served as a reminder of the value of independence and the power that comes from choosing to move past challenging circumstances.